So my junk's all messed up because I had to reset all my OBS settings, and yeah.
Well, I still got you on here, Cynical. Hello,
Yes, that's what
everybody.
I'm saying.
Welcome to the podcast today. It is the second episode of last week of Epoch. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. I'm Grim Reaper, and with me is Cynical.
I'm aware. What's going on, guys? It's Cynical Squid. I'm having technical difficulties. Sorry. I apologize.
It's okay, man. So, with us tonight also is joined Additional Baker and the winner of the Shade of Orbis race, Mr. Benishol. Mr. Benishol, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing pretty good. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Good, good. So tell us about your plan with the race. How did you plan out your strategy for being able to push through the race like you did and taking that number one spot?
Well, basically, I was already speedrunning the story before learning about the race and getting the invitation. So I was already I was already practicing strats for speedrunning the story and the campaign. So when Additional Baker told me about the race, I was like super happy, and I went on and practiced the Orbis route instead. I have not played hardcore that much before, so that was quite new to me. Well, I mean, I'm used to dying a lot and like using death strats, basically to like try and go faster. But that time, you, like in hardcore, you can't do that, right? Because you just cancel your run. But I just practiced a lot, pretty much for like a week or a week and a half before that time, and practice actually paid off.
Awesome. And what was that feeling like whenever you know that you secured your victory?
Oh, it felt really good. It felt really good, man. I was super relieved because like I knew I was taking a lot of hits on that fight, but like I could get hit by pretty much anything and it wouldn't kill me one shot. So I knew I was good as long as I killed the effigy, as long as I had my golem up to tank the effigy as well, and yeah, I felt really relieved.
Awesome, man. And Baker, how long did you have to deal for planning for this event? How hard was that to actually get this organized and set up?
Well, it took me roughly, I think, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, from when I first decided I was going to do it. And then the actual planning and organizing of it took about a week. And it was hard in ways that I didn't expect it to be. you know, it was really rough trying to actually get people to participate because it was invitation only. So I had to actually get in contact with everyone who was going to race, the co-caster and everything. But it went really well, and I'm really glad with how it turned out.
And for the record, who was your co-caster? What's his name
It
again, sir?
was it was Fitz at Twitter's TV, one Fitzable boy with an I at the end.
Awesome.
Yeah, Fitz is a great guy, wonderful streamer, great content.
And after you had put all this planning and preparation into it, um, did you did you already know who you thought would win the race? Did you already have a prediction in your mind as to who you thought would win it?
I mean, yes, but not really, kind of. I mean, the whole thing was really a roller coaster. A lot of my predictions turned out to be right on accident. Like when you're throwing like a paper ball on the trash can and it's like you miss, but it hits like three different walls and it lands. That's kind of how my predictions went. Because I was like, well, Nag is probably going to get a really good result, right? He's practiced a lot. I've seen his times. He's probably going to do really well. And then he just died twice. And I was like, oh, well. And then somehow he managed to get back and finished second place, right? So I was like, okay, I guess I got that one right. And then Lizard, I figured he wasn't probably going to perform as well because I saw everyone practicing, right? Nag was practicing, Bino was practicing, Denny, and everyone was
By the way,
making
Baker,
low
I heard
cultures
you.
and everything. Yeah,
By the way,
yeah, I know
Baker,
you did. I know you did. I know you did.
I heard you trash talking
Mhm.
during the cast. By the way, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
I didn't think Bino was gonna win.
I didn't. I didn't.
Bina, I'll be
Um,
honest with you, bro. I didn't think you were going to win either. I honestly had my money on
Damn, so
Nag.
many doubters, man. So many
yeah.
doubters.
I'm
Well, I
not going to be
mean,
the odd one out and say I picked you either because I didn't. I picked Lizard. So
Oh my god, man.
yeah. I mean, we only knew so much about everyone who was participating, and at the
Not very
time, the
good
only
at
person who
predictions, are you guys,
was,
right?
I mean,
Just
hey,
kidding.
I
Hey,
got
we're
some
not
of
the
it right.
Weather Channel.
Yeah. But yeah. Did I
Awesome.
answer the question?
Yes, you
I think I
did.
did.
Yeah.
I think so. It
Okay.
was just very long because we got wrapped up in
Mhm.
everybody throwing shade at everybody and being wrong
Yeah.
on predictions.
Shade. Get it? Okay.
But so Mr. Venishol, I got to ask you this because we talked about this before the podcast, but I got to ask you now on the podcast. How did it feel whenever you found out Nag died?
Actually, like I told you, I it didn't felt good, but I felt relieved. Right. So I knew Nag had really good times. He's been telling me we're gonna have a really tight race and everything. He didn't want to tell me his times before the actual day, but on the day of the race, he told me, my times were like this, 140. Pretty much, I did like he did a couple practice runs. He had really good times, pretty much the same times as me, and he didn't die during his practice runs. I died a bunch of times during my practice runs, like a bunch of times. I tried multiple different strats, right? Going to monolith right away as soon as hit the end of time, trying to level up at without continuing the story, just like grinding some certain areas in the game. I tried continuing the story, and I felt like that was the most safe route to take. But Nag had some really good times, so I was kind of worried about this. And when he died, I was like, all right, now the pressure is relieved. I can just play my game, do like I did in practice, take some safe routes, kill a little bit more mobs, just so I'm a little bit over leveled, and everything seems fine. And pretty much everything went on pretty smoothly afterwards.
Awesome. And what was your strategy for gearing your character on this? Did you have a loot filter set up to make sure that you picked up very specific gear to help you survive the shade fight as well as get through the content?
Yeah, exactly. So my main point is early on, I want to get some void res. This is very important for a couple key areas in the game at the very beginning. So you want to get some void res, preferably like 20%, just about 20%. Seems pretty fine. And I already had loot filters set up for pretty much all the gear that I wanted. So I had recolored filters for like defensive options, offensive options, and whatnot. Movement speed, super important to get movement speed. So my filters were all set up. And then you want to get gold rings before going into Monolith, because gold rings give you kind of like free LA res. I was going the one-handed route, so I was grabbing either a wand or a scepter with a shield with LA res as well on it. So the Targe has implicit elemental res. So that was my game plan. Get free LA res on 2 gold rings and the Targe, and then try to cap my other resistances whatever way I can.
Awesome. Well, obviously that strategy worked and it paid off because you took first place and didn't die. And going into the final stretch of the race, were you nervous at all with the shade fight? Was that any concern, or was that pretty much a pretty easy fight being it's the first monolith?
No, it's absolutely like shade is where the run can go to hell. Like you can absolutely die to any shade. Um, of course, if you don't dodge right, which I don't always dodge things, but when you can take a hit, why not? It's optimal, right?
Yeah.
No, but to be honest, the shade fight was it was the main focus for me. I had to really try to not die there, and the shade I got was a pretty easy one, so I was quite happy with that.
Which
It was
shade
good
did you
RNG
get?
on my part. I got the blood shade. So as
Okay.
long with the lich, as long as you have your golem up, he will tank pretty much everything. He will also tank the tether from the center thing that appears.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So he will tank everything, and as long as you dodge most of the things, I didn't have any big AOE's on the screen. I didn't have like any sort of like funky things that hide the big meteor that hides sometimes Orbis, and you can't see what he does. So I had a pretty easy shade and easy fight.
Awesome. Now, for all the viewers that are out there, if you're watching the stream, if you have any questions you'd like to ask of Baker or Benishow, go ahead and put those down in the chat down below, and we'll go ahead and ask these guys any questions you guys might want to have answered while we got them here. And speaking of which, Baker, so
Mhm.
the prize pool for this. What was first place's prize again? Because
First
I didn't get to
place
see it.
was $50 plus one copy of Last Epoch, plus the T-shirt and mouse pad, which
Okay,
were provided by HG.
awesome. And what was second
So
place?
second place was just a copy of
Okay,
the game.
and
Yeah.
did third or fourth place get anything for
Nope.
participating? No, so no
No, not
participation
this time
trophies.
around. Not this time around. Maybe for
Okay,
the next ones.
awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Do you have any questions on your side there, Cynical?
So I do have a question for Beneficial on this. So like with this being a race, did you like approach this differently than you would if you were just playing a hardcore character, like just to make one to either play on stream or play in your spare time? With it being a race, how did that alter how you played it versus a like regular hardcore run would have been?
Like regular hardcore, I would level up much more and spend a lot more time capping my resistances and everything. For the race, I just go with the bare minimum to be able to survive, hopefully, and just use my speedrunning strats, right? And so basically, going as fast as possible, with the least amount of time wasted, right?
Gotcha.
So it is much more risky to play in a race like this, even hardcore, than I would just play a regular hardcore character, where I would just kill most mobs, be super over leveled, and keep it really safe.
Yeah, I'll say I've been doing hardcore runs on my stream, and I'm like a map completionist where I'm killing every single mob I can encounter because I want to be as prepared as possible when I hit the next area because it is hardcore and like it just
Exactly.
takes one errant shot will end your run immediately. So yeah, that makes sense. Going more risky for the race, and it's like kind of a necessity that you would have to almost as well.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to, because other people are going to be competitive, and you cannot underestimate like how fast other people can go.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right, guys, moving on. We'll start talking about the dev stream. I've got some notes here for you guys, and if you guys got anything to say about anything as we go through this list, go ahead and chime in. Just so you guys know, this month's charity is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So if you're not already subbed to the Last Epoch game channel, all of their subs that they get will actually go to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So I suggest going over there and subbing because it's for a good cause. All right, so the first takeaway that we got from the dev stream this past week, is they are working on expanding skill stats to be shown within your character sheet. So let's say you have like Lightning Blast, it's going to make it to where it's going to appear in your skill sheet and show you how the increases are affecting your skills. They are working on that system. What do you think about that, Baker?
Wait, but they're gonna change it on the skill tree
No, it's going to
or
be
your
in the character
or
sheet itself. Whenever you
in the
open your
character
character
sheet?
sheet, you're going to be able to see how your increases are affecting your skills too, is one of the things that
Oh,
Mike
that's
said on the dev
amazing.
stream.
It's amazing because there's a lot of features where it's not. Well, I mean, it's great that it's a feature that's being added, but a lot of it we kind of know already how it works. What we don't really know is secondary skills. So, for example, if you're for some reason, you're playing Judgment, you don't really know all the modifiers that affect Consecrated Ground, right? You know it's affected by obvious things like fire damage over time, but it doesn't really have all the tags and all the you know um, affixes that are associated with it. But it's really good that at least we got something that helps a little bit, right? It's gonna be great for crit because with crit you want to know exactly how much you got, and I'm guessing it's gonna update based on your status, right? So if you apply a certain buff or something, it's gonna update on the character sheet too.
Yeah, that was one
Yeah,
of the things they were talking about on that. What do you think about it, Benishol? Are you excited to be able to open up your character sheet and see how something's affecting your skills?
Absolutely, because right now I'm gonna say I'm not using the DPS tooltip at all. Like I don't feel
yeah.
it's not that representative of your damage. Like it is kind of in a way, but it's so like there's so many bugs still and so many things that don't affect it, which should. Um, yeah, I just don't use it. So if it can be really accurate, I would be super pleased.
They were talking also about putting in a DPS meter into the game as well for people to judge their DPS accurately. But Squid, what do you think, man? You excited to be able to open up your character sheet and see what your increases and reductions are going to be to it?
Oh, absolutely. With any ARPG, like the min max is what most of us that are going to keep coming back to the game. That's what we're about, and giving us access to more information readily without us having to do the math on our end really quickly is just going to benefit us more as a community. More information is never a bad thing, basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Well, I, for one, am excited for it because, well, I'm not very good at math, so it's going to do the math for me, like you said. So I'll be able to see what's going on with my character sheet. The second thing is quiet. This is for you, good sir. Make sure you're doing those squats. You're not getting what you wanted. So just a friendly reminder, keep doing squats, get prepared. And number 3 on the list is going to be they are talking about the soundtrack is going to be coming out. And the way they're going to be doing it is probably with the supporter packs. So if you've already gotten a supporter pack, you'll be getting a copy of the last Epoch soundtrack, I believe, with some of them, Mike said. I think Mike was unsure of which ones are going to get it. So I'm not sure if you buy the lowest one, if you'll get it, or if all of them's going to get it. But it basically made it sound like that if you got a supporter pack, you're probably going to get one. What do you think about that,
Nice.
Baker?
I think that's really good. I was actually checking out the soundtrack because I wanted to find out if it was a good idea to put in the background of the race or not. And there's some really good songs, as it turns out, actually. And they've recently uploaded a couple more on YouTube. I think there's 4 new songs out that you could just listen to, and it's a really good soundtrack. I think it's a great thing. Not a lot of people really care about it, but I think it's good. It's a nice
Nice.
thing.
And what do you think,
I think
Mr. Benishow?
especially as a streamer, most of my games I just play without the music and I just add my own music to the stream, right?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
haven't listened to much of it at all. So I couldn't say.
All right. What about you, Cynical?
All right, so I'm very excited by this. So most of the time with the game, I get the game and I listen to the music a little bit while I'm playing, and then I just put on my own stuff. Even while streaming, I'll get like a lo-fi playlist or something to play in the background while I'm playing the game. Last Epoch's one of like the very few games I've ever streamed where I still have the soundtrack on. I actually really enjoy the soundtrack to this game. All the music feels very atmospheric. It fits the like theme of the game a lot. It's just they've done a really good job with it, and I'm super excited to have like my own copy of it potentially that I can just listen to whenever.
And I'm looking forward to it too because I haven't listened to the music yet. So having a copy of it would be awesome to be able to actually sit down and listen to it without any other noise and without me running into an arena and getting creamed because I'm like, oh, that sounds
Mhm.
so nice. And then all of a sudden, clap, you're dead. Because I have a bad habit of not paying attention to one thing whenever I'm paying attention to something else because I have adult attention deficit disorder, which sucks sometimes. So, moving on to the number 4 thing. So, these 5 sentences were said at the dev stream. Only one of these is true. So, we're going to have to guess which one of these 5 is a true sentence that Mike put out. So,
Yeah.
in the next upcoming patch, Mantis form will be a new form. Dungeons will be added to the game. Gold will be the main source of trading. Legendaries will be nothing more but powered up uniques. And then you will be able to get multiple blessings from the same monolith run. Which one do you think it's going to be, Cynical, out of those 5?
Uh, Man, I really hope it's not the gold one. That would be very disappointing.
I think it is. I think it is.
Oh god, that would be like super disappointing. It's like, yeah,
They
great,
already
we get to
said that
trade gold.
before. I think they did.
Yeah.
I mean, out of the group, I guess if I had to pick one, I would maybe Mantis form, just so like maybe there'll be a reason for me to want to play something other than Werebear and Primalist.
You're probably going to be doing squats with Quiet for me then.
Fantastic.
What do you think, Bana?
It has to be the gold. It has to be the gold. I think they've already said this before. I'm gonna go with the gold.
You're going to go with
Gold
the
as
gold?
the main trading currency.
Wow. I don't see how that's going to be possible. I really don't. That would blow my mind if that's actually what it is. What do you think, Baker?
I think it's Monolith. almost 100%, and I think it's a dangerous one. I mean, it's not gold because they mentioned that they want to find a new way to spend gold to make it so they can actually use it. So I don't think they're gonna make it the main currency. It's Mantis forms the meme. Dungeons is just too big, so it has to be monolith rewards. But they're gonna have to balance it because it's gonna be an issue if you can get multiple ones. I mean, one thing that you gotta keep in mind is that they're gonna add more chapters to the story, which means at some point there's gonna be 12 chapters. And when you finish level 1, you're already leveled up for 55 monolith. So maybe they're gonna add more difficult content, and then it's gonna actually make sense to have multiple blessings. Maybe that's what it's gonna be, but I don't know. We have to wait and see.
Well, for me, I was going to say that I think it's going to be the legendaries are just going to be powered up versions of unique items. So I would really like to see some different changes to some of the uniques to make them much more viable in builds because some of the uniques as they are, they're not really powerful enough to be main sources in a lot of builds. Some of the uniques that are out currently. Now, some of the new ones that came out, the shade uniques, those things are really, really strong, especially the amulet, because if you get a really good roll on that amulet, that's a pretty OP amulet. You're getting +1 to all skills and a bunch of resists. So I think for that slot, that one's really good. But for as far as other uniques, some of them are a little bit underpowered. You can't really use them for in-game builds as a main source for a lot of them right now. So I think a legendary version, something you get out of Monolith, would actually be a unique thing to have, something that could be a build defining unique to change the game up a little bit and give it a little bit of flavor. But after hearing your response about the Monolith Baker, I think you're probably right. The blessings are probably going to be the one that they're going to end up having is the ability to have multiple blessings. And I think you're right about the balancing thing. All right, so moving on, Lightning Blast has got a visual rework. Did any of you guys get to see that on the dev stream?
Yeah,
Okay, so you did see it. What about you, Bina?
yeah.
I did not see it. No.
Okay,
I didn't get to catch it either.
okay. So the Lightning Blast, it looks dope, guys. It looks a lot better. It looks a lot crisper, and I can't remember the word Judd used in the dev stream to describe it. Oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for that he used? Basically, it's performant. There we go. That's the word he used. It's much more
Yeah.
performant. So Judd used that word. His words, not mine. I'm not that smart. But he said it's much more performance. So obviously, you get a skill that's got a better performance with the game. It's going to cut down on some lag issues and maybe some other little bugs or some niches that, unless you play Source and you play Lightning Blast quite often, you're not going to recognize. What do you think about it, Baker?
I think it's really good. I mean, it's one in a sequence of skills that they've been reworking. They recently did Smite on one of the dev streams live, and that was really cool too. And it's great. I mean, certain skills are really old. Certain models, not just for skills but characters too, are really old, and they really need a bit of a revamp. Lightning Blast was one of them, and it's really good that they're changing it.
Nice. What do you feel about the change to Lightning Blast, Bina?
I'm excited to try it actually because I've never actually built a I did build a Nova Sork back in the days a long time ago, right? Lots of patches ago when Oran's Eye was super easy to get, right? You could get it with basically 1 million gold. But I did not play it enough, and I'm quite excited to see the changes. I mean, Lightning Blast was already so good, you know.
And what do you
So
think, Cynical?
I'm very excited for this. Lightning Blast is probably my favorite Sork build to play anyway. So it being better and it performing better, so there's less frame drops and stuff, that's never a bad thing. And that's exactly the type of stuff that we should be addressing as far as well, I say we, but that's the type of stuff they should be addressing as they get closer to a 1.0 launch is revisiting these older skills like Baker was saying that have been in the game for a while. Some of the models that have been in there, they need updating. That's the stuff they should be, as we get closer to a 1.0, that's what we should be looking into and stuff.
but I don't think LB had that much of an issue with FPS, right? Actually, I've never had any issues with that. Have you guys
I
have
don't think so.
issues with FPS with Lightning
Mm.
Blast?
No, I've never really had
No.
a ton of issues, but I also play the game on low to medium settings anyway, just to not stress my computer out while streaming to begin with. So
Yeah, I've had issue with
Because-
two things. One of them was bleed on puncture specifically, and the
Yeah.
other one, of course, was hammer throw smite because of how many procs, how many things are happening. I've not had any issues with lightning blast itself.
Have you guys tried out Avalanche?
Yes,
Did you have any FPS problems with Avalanche?
I don't think so. Not that I noticed.
Did you self cast it?
Yeah,
Okay. I watched another streamer and he was having like 2 frames per second with Avalanche. Anytime he would get
Nice.
groups together and he'd start dropping the boulders on them, all of a sudden his frames would just drop down. So I figured I'd ask you about that. And the last takeaway from the dev stream is Void Knight is going to be getting a new skill. And Mike also said there's going to be some conversions in this skill. So you're going to be able to convert it to other damage sources besides Void. So I don't know if you guys got to see it, but it looks like it's kind of like a sweep as far as like
I gotta get Reimer in here.
Reimer. It looks like it's a sweep attack, though, a wide swing attack. And it looked pretty cool. So I'm excited for that. Did you get to see that at all, Bina? You missed that one too, didn't you?
Yeah, I completely missed the dev stream, to be
Okay.
honest.
Okay, so you didn't get to tune in at all. Did you get to
At
see
all.
that, Baker?
Yeah, I saw it.
What'd you think of it?
I mean, I have my reservations in regards to it because they mentioned that it's gonna have a cooldown and it's gonna have a mana cost that is not negligible, which means either there has to be something really spicy, really interesting in the specialization tree, or it's gonna be kind of underwhelming. Voidlight already has what's the name of the big bonk with
Erasing
Fortnite?
strike.
Racing
Yeah.
Strike, yeah. It's already not one of the most popular skills, and there's a lot of support for heavy hitting single hits, but no one really seems to play Void Knight that way because it's so much better to just get a billion hits with whatever skill you want to use. So I'm curious how they're gonna approach it because there's so many ways it could go wrong and just not turn out to be good. But Sentinel was on the list to be reworked anyways, so we have to see how it comes with the whole package, really.
Nice. Did you get to see that at all, Squid, for that one?
No, I missed like the entire dev stream over the weekend.
Oh, okay. So both Bina and Squid missed it. So luckily, I remember your comments, Baker. You asked if it was going to be 15 mana cost with a 4-second cooldown on the skill. I remember
Yeah.
that specifically in the dev stream chat. So very good question on you. Did that question ever get answered, by the way?
No.
No?
course
Okay.
Mhm.
Well,
That's
never
probably
know.
a yes then.
He probably hit it nail on the
Probably a
head.
yes.
All right. So, did any of you guys participate in the Rogue tournament this weekend?
Yeah.
Did you, Bina?
Nope.
No.
No, I did not. I did not.
And what about you, Squid?
I did not. I actually watched like a bit of your run, and I watched a little bit of Lizard as well on stream.
Okay. How'd you do on the run, Baker?
Oh, the whole thing was just way above my pay grade. Everyone above me was just at 400 plus, and I was like, I'm not even gonna get close to that. I had less than 2 days to actually play because I spent most of the time just planning and working on the race. So, and on the last day, on Monday, yesterday, I had issues with last Epoch. It was crashing all the time. I even tried streaming it, but I couldn't get it to work. So I really didn't have enough time to actually get into the tournament. But I managed to get it. I got 5th place, I think. So
That's
it
not
wasn't
bad.
too bad.
I think I placed like 13th because I had just
Mhm.
absolute terrible time. I was 3 days behind. I took off for the weekend and I went and visited family for 4th of July. So because I was
Yeah.
gone, I missed out on a full 3 days of being able to take and run through the monolith, get through the monolith, look at my blessings, check to make sure they're the correct blessings I need for the build in the first place, go back through and run the empowered to get upgrades for those blessings if I needed it. I didn't even get to unlock empowered. That's how far behind I was.
Yeah.
So
Me neither. Yeah.
last night I basically spent the whole night pushing my character as far as I could and getting as much gear on my character as I could. I lucked out. I got a tier 19 bow, and it was pretty good. It had all the stats I wanted. It was really high roll on the implicit too. So I was really happy to have the 4% crit with the 90% increased physical damage on the bow plus the 40 flat damage on it. So it was a pretty good roll overall. So I think I could have pushed the build a lot further if I would have had those 3 days to be able to farm a lot more gear. I don't think I would have pushed as high as everybody else in the 400s. I think I could have probably got about 200, maybe 210, 215, because I'm very bad at positioning in arenas, and I'll be honest about that. Arenas is not my strong suit, and I need to start practicing them more. So with that,
What were the rules for that one?
What's that?
What were the rules for that one? What were the bans? Decoy, maybe?
Decoy was one of the bans, and the other one was Synchronized Strike was the ban. And for the skills you had to either use Flurry, Acid Flask, or Puncture for your build. I went with Puncture. So
All right.
I did a completely different build. And also thank you to the CTs that stopped by my stream and helped me out with the Puncture build, because I would not have known that Armor Shred does not work for bleeds had they not told me that. I had several wasted points in my skill tree at the time for Armor Shred, because Fizz Shred is what reduces the resistance enough for your Fizz damage on the bleed to actually do more damage. I did not know that. Apparently the CTs did, and they helped me out a little bit with that. So thank you to them for the extra help. So with that, we'll get into the top 3 finishers for the race this weekend. At number 1 with 420 waves exactly is Mr. Tunk himself. If you guys don't know who he is, he's the creator of Tunk Labs. So thank you for the applause there, Baker. Much appreciated. At number 2 is the Lich King himself, Mau Mau X, with 416 waves. And then at number 3, Cynical's boy, Lizard IRL, with 404 waves done. So hats off to those gentlemen. So
the last time I saw the rankings, Lizard was in first at 404, and then kind of, I guess, close to last minute, the other two kind of overtook him.
Yeah, I didn't get to see what Mau Mau was playing too much. I think you did go with a Blade Dancer build, and I'm not sure if Tunk went Blade Dancer or not. Hold on a second. I can look this up real quick. We can look at their skills and see exactly what it is.
Tunk was doing Acid Flask, Dark River, Hail of Arrows. Yep. So it was a Hail of Arrows build. Mao was doing Shuriken's Puncture, Shadow Cascade. So I'm guessing is just doing Shadow Daggers.
Yep.
And Lizard was doing the Detonating Arrow with Flurry, Multi-Shot, and Reins of Winter.
Yes, but his build was very unique with the procs. Did you get to see that with all those procs on the screen? He was procking all kinds of the little icicles out and was just freezing all kinds of stuff. I'd watch big mobs get up in his face, and he just and you just see the guy just frozen until he's dead. It was like, cool, that's an awesome build. Did you get to see Lizard's build, Bina, for the race?
Yeah, absolutely. I found it very, very interesting. That was actually something I would have loved to try, making a build with Reign of Winter. But Lizard really made a good build out of it.
What did you think about his build, Cynical?
So when I tuned into his stream, it was kind of like you were talking, where it's like big mobs will jump him, and look, I play a little bit of Rogue. I know what happens when big mobs jump you. Nothing good comes of it. But then they would jump him, and like you said, he would just freeze them, and they're just standing there stuck in an attack animation that would kill him if it hit him, but it didn't, because he killed them before they got unfrozen. I was like, when I first tuned in, I was like, what the heck is he even doing? Like, looking at his skill bar, I was like, what is happening here? And then I saw it in action, and I was like, okay, this guy's actually just way smarter than I am, and that's what's happening here.
What about you, Baker? What did you think of his build?
It's a really cool build. I've seen. I remember it was one of the first builds that I saw when I first started playing as Epoch. There's a guy running Reins of Winter. I'm not sure exactly what he was doing, but I think it was multi-shot flurry. And I'm just not sure if he was playing the same way. Lizard was doing Morning Frost stack stacking, if I'm not mistaken, which is really interesting. It's really hard to pull off because of resistances you lose. So perhaps him for actually figuring out how to make it work, I guess.
Overstacking on resistances a lot. Probably even maybe getting the Empowered Blessings with good rolls too for resistances for those slots, because you can get Fizz resist in the Monolith, can't you, if I'm not mistaken?
You can get Physical and Cold from Hiorat, but I'm not sure where you get Cold Shred, because that would be really rough to lose it.
I think Cold Shred's Hiorat. No, yeah, Cold Shred would be Hiorat if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So yeah, that's that is definitely a hard build if all those come from Hero Rod himself to try to pull off. So I'd be interested in interviewing Lizard and finding out just exactly how he put that build together and finding out the inner workings of it, because that was definitely a neat build to see. So
Yeah, Gold Shred does come from Huron. Just checked.
okay, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think of the state of the game right now, Banishal? How are you liking Last Epoch so far in your time in it?
The state of the game, it's in a pretty good state. I think it's great. Um, You know, I come from Wilson, basically.
Oh,
And
God.
coming from Wilson,
Holy hell.
All right.
except like, Last Epoch for me, the main issue is the FPS drops. Um, Although this patch, I have not had that many real bad FPS drops, except with Wangari Shamans, right? Everybody has those. They need to fix it. I think they're aware of it, of course, but I have not had like as bad FPS drops as I used to back, even just like 3 months or 4 months ago. So yeah, I think the game is in a pretty good state. It feels kind of like a finished game, to be honest, and they're just keeping on putting patches and patches and patches and like more content and stuff like that. It kind of feels like it could be released, but since they had so much support, they're keeping it in beta, and it's perfectly fine like this, right? So when they actually release it, they want it to be as good as it can be. At least that's what I think. But I'm having a ton of fun. I'll be putting out a lot more content for it as well, and yeah, I think it's in a really really good place right now.
Nice. How do you feel about the game since you play hardcore so much, Cynical?
I'm going to agree a lot with what Benishal said as far as like the polish on the game and how it feels. Like it feels like a finished game. It doesn't really feel like a beta outside of some of the FPS issues that he was talking about. I normally just kind of get them like when I first start the game up. The first like big fight I get into will have like some FPS issues, and then after that, it's pretty smooth sailing. I also visited family over the weekend for the fourth, like you did, Grim, and I was showing my brother-in-law the game just to like show it off to him because he plays a lot of like Diablo and PoE and stuff. And like he's sitting there watching me play the game a little bit on my laptop, and he was like, "You said this game was in beta?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's still in beta." He was like, "Dude, that looks amazing for a game that's in beta." So it even to like someone who hasn't played the game, but like just visually, it looks good to other people. So I think that says a lot about it. I think as far as like class balancing goes, like that's never going to be perfect. That's just not something. I don't think it's reasonable to expect class balance to ever be perfect. But for the most part, given that it is just like a PVE game, I think it's pretty good right now with regards to balancing. There's some stuff that needs to be tuned, of course, but the game is a blast to play. I'm having a ton of fun playing it on stream, so I'm very happy with where it's at.
One thing I would like to add is like my one of my biggest complaints are the sound effects. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the sound effects are not like visceral enough. They don't have enough crunch to them. Do you get that feeling, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
for sure.
I mean, I feel like it could be so much more. Every sound effect feels so windy. It feels like yeah, I don't know, windy.
I mean-
It feels light. They are very very light sound effects, and I would like to have more impactful sound effects, right? So you get that feeling of like actually hitting the mobs and like having this visceral sound
Yeah.
effect. Like sound is a bit like I know a lot of people don't play with sound, but I do, right? Actually, just the sound effects, not the music. But I feel like it would add so much more impact to the combat, which I think is a little bit lacking right now.
Yeah,
Oh,
I feel like the sound in terms of the ambience and the soundtrack are really good. If you're just sitting around in the middle of a monolith, the sound that's playing in the background is really nice, and the soundtrack's really good too. But the skill sounds could use a whole lot of work. It truly does not feel as impactful. It's one of the things which it makes a lot of sense that Bina is talking about this because it comes from Wolcen. And one of the few redeeming factors of Wolcen is that everything has a lot of impact, both in terms of sound and the way that the skills feel in that game, aside from everything else, of course. So there's certainly ways to go with sound, I think maybe, perhaps.
Well, I like the sounds right now that they have, and I do agree that they could probably make them a lot better, make them more crunchy, like Beanishul said. And I think it's very interesting, Bina, that you came from Wilson Lords of Maintenance, because I would have never have guessed that you were a Wilson player. So, but as far as like the sound effects for some of the skills do have the sound effects I think they should have. Like whenever you swing with Rive and it's in midair, it sounds like a midair swing should, but as far as like when you impact on the target, you just don't hear that impact. So I can also agree with Vina that there is some changes that can be made as far as whenever a skill actually hits. The other thing too is I think they could also change some of the effects of the deaths of the mobs. Like let's say you hit something with lightning blast, you fry it, they could show it as a crispy critter on the ground instead of the regular critter that they have. And if you're using like Rive and you hit somebody and you kill them, the final split, you could, split them in half or whatever, or have a different death animation for some of the mobs just to change it up a little bit. Those are little things that they could probably add, and they could do that over time. Another skill that they could change too would be like Glacier. Like if you kill somebody with Glacier, have them break apart into ice shards or something. You know what I mean? Just have them like explode and pop. I think that would be kind of cool to have a little bit of death animations to that. What do you think, Baker?
I mean, I'm I'm not sure I would go that far because it's kind of detail that you kind of don't always notice. It's very mild. Of course, it adds up. It's one of those things that when you put all the pieces together, it really makes it feel more alive. But I've already seen people suggest just removing death animations because they wanted more FPS, right? They want a better performance. So I feel like it would be very nice to have better animations, death animations, and all of that, but it has to come after a whole lot of other things, a whole set of improvements to the game.
And what do you
Hey,
think,
that's why the
Cynical?
game is still in beta, right?
Yeah,
Right. And like you mentioning Glacier, like Glacier is one of those skills that like doesn't sound very impactful to me. Like the first one does, and then like the second and third hit are both like bigger, but it has the exact same sound effect as the first one. So I'm like,
yeah.
it doesn't feel like the last third big hit. It doesn't sound like a big hit. It just sounds like a regular ice blast. And I feel like that's a place where a sound improvement could definitely be made to have it sound like you could get like a more like an ice cracking sound or something, like if a glacier is breaking apart, like more of like a roar, I guess, to where it sounds like a big impact has hit a mob when you land that hit with it.
And what do
It's
you think,
because
Bina?
some skills can be so spammy that they don't want to actually like I don't know if it's like a design choice to have sounds like they are right now, instead of like having a more crunchy effect on them or like more like visceral, like I said. But you know, I wish it was more impactful for sure.
Okay, understood. Got you guys. So, as far as your guys' plans, Baker, me and you have had a conversation earlier this week, and you said that
Yeah.
you've got some new things coming in the works. Do you want to talk about that?
I'm not sure. I mean, uh, there's two things. One of them I'm not quite ready to talk about yet
Okay.
because I still have to figure out exactly how I want to do it. The other one, well, it's the race, of course. I'm planning the next couple events. I mean, the next one. Of course, I'm not planning 3 and 4 at a time, right? I'm planning the next one. There's a couple things I could talk about in regards to that one, but it's also not 100% set in stone.
Please go ahead, sir. The floor is yours. We'd love to hear it.
Well, I mean, okay. A couple things I can't really talk about because I don't want to make it so that people are already planning things out and practicing and figuring everything out, right? I want to leave a little bit. I want to reward players actually practicing and having kind of a similar window that they can play the game. But it's the tournament. I plan on making it roughly around a month after the first one. Yeah, and the 31st, if I'm not mistaken, is International Friendship Day. Now, I'm not going to say exactly how that's relevant to the race, but you can come up with your own conclusions and speculations.
Tag
Um,
team race.
and I mean, well, I'm not going to say anything about it. But yeah, there's going to be considerable changes in the way that the players are going to be chosen for the race, in terms of how the prizes are going to be. pulled as well, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun. Check it out.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. You
Yeah.
guys got that first exclusive here. You heard it first, guys. Baker's going to have another race in just a month. And whenever it gets closer to that time, hopefully we can get him back on the show to talk some more about the race whenever it gets close again. I would love to have you back on the show again,
Sure,
sir.
yeah. I'd love to
And
promote it.
yeah, it'd be great. And Benishol, have you got any other plans? We were talking about you taking and doing another world record speed run. Have you got any plans in the works besides doing maybe a Lagan speed run for the world record?
I do. Well, actually, this patch I wanted to get like one meta build for each class, which I don't know. I don't know how much time we still have left with this patch. I think we do have a lot of time, right? But I'm working on that. I do want to get the world record for the Lagan speedrun as well, and I have some stuff in the background. I have some interesting things that I cannot announce right away. But if all ends up working like I wish they would, it's gonna be really good for Ellie.
Nice.
Yeah.
We would definitely love to have you back as well, too, if you want to come back on the show and talk about what you got coming up whenever you get closer to that time to reveal those things. If you want to give us that exclusive, we'd love to be able to give it to the people out there that are viewing this.
Absolutely. Eventually, if all goes like planned, I'll be back for sure and talk to you guys about it.
Awesome.
So,
What about you, Cynical? What do you got planned for this week coming up? I know you're always doing something in hardcore.
yeah, we're still working on the hardcore paladin run. We got into end game, so we got farther than that very very doomed primalist that we tried, which means I will not be playing in the Vision Geo hardcore tournament since it's primalist, and that was not a fun experience for me. But yeah, no, we're just continuing the paladin run, man. We got through the first mono. We're into the second one now on stream. So, and we
Awesome.
haven't even really like had any close rips yet. Which, I mean, it's paladin. I mean, you're just like naturally super tanky anyway. And I mean, you've watched me play on stream, Grim. I'm meticulous, man. I'm killing every single mob on the map if I can, if it's hardcore.
Yeah, unless you got all the big ones that require burst damage, and then you're running around in circles trying to get away from them. I remember watching that.
I killed all of them. It just took 5 minutes.
This man literally ran around a rock for 5 minutes spinning to kill off all these giant mobs that were trying to kill him.
Yeah, look, we're past free. It doesn't cost me any mana. I can spin all day. It's fine.
Yeah, we just needed the Benny Hill theme song to go with it as you were going around in circles.
Either that or like the Beyblade theme or something.
Well, for me, this week I'm going to be working on my rogue again. The same rogue I played in the tournament. I actually moved it over to softcore and removed it from solo. I want to push that build a lot further and see what I could have actually done if I would have had more time on it and see how much further I can push that build. I've been really interested in the way puncture works with everything. And the bleed damage, I think I can get a lot higher than what it is. I've been noticing I've been getting like 2 to 3K ticks with it. And I think I could probably push it up to maybe about a 5 to a 6K tick easily with puncture with the way it works and stacking the bleed on it. So I'm definitely looking forward to pushing that build more and seeing if I can get the right gear this time for a little bit more tankiness. Because in the tournament, my dodge was absolute crap. I think I had like 24% armor and 5% dodge, if that tells you how bad the gear was for what I had that I was trying to do with it. So shots weren't missing me; they were hitting me. I was getting wrecked by rats. The first run I did for this tournament, I got to like wave 83, and rats just dove on top of me and just nommed me up. And I was just like, "What the?" It was over in a second. I didn't even have time to click the health pot, man. I was just dead on the ground, just sprawled out, just like, all right, well, I guess I got to screenshot this and send this to Vision. Forgot to open my character sheet again. I did it twice during this tournament. Forgot to open the character sheet, just like the rules say. And next week, I'm sorry, Vision, I'll try to make sure I get my screenshot open for that. And speaking of the tournament from this weekend, for Vision's tournament, I don't know if any of you guys know who Charred Hope is. Do you know who Charred Hope is, Additional Baker?
Yeah.
Okay. You know him too, Squid, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Bina Shoal?
I don't.
This man, this weekend, played in Vision's tournament with broke ribs and still placed a good placement for a man that was, very badly injured. I was sitting in his stream, and this man would literally get through a wave, push, have to stop, and would grunt in pain. And my hat's off to that guy. That guy is a tough dude to be sitting there playing this game with broke ribs and still trying to compete in a tournament because he loves this game so much and is so adamant about this game. So my hat's off to that man. And if you
Heads
don't
off.
know who Charred Hope is, go and follow him and give him a follow on his channel and come check out the madness that this guy puts out. He's a pretty good player. I think he's one of the unknown that's good players that are out there. What were you about to say, Mr. Baker?
I just said heads off to him. Yeah,
Yeah,
great dude.
yeah, that was insane to watch him play with his ribs like that.
Yeah, I would say I cracked a rib in high school playing football, and like just sitting in a chair breathing hurts like hell. So I
Yeah,
have no clue how he's because like even playing a game, you're still like moving around and like jerking your body and stuff, and like all of that just has to be sending pain through his body. So like Baker said, hats off to him for gutting through that, man. That was really really tough to watch sometimes.
yeah, it is tough to watch a guy like that grunt in pain. But I want to thank you, Baker, for coming on the podcast tonight, and you,
Thank
Mr.
you for having
Benishoel.
me.
It's very much
Thank you. Thanks
appreciative
for
to have you
having me.
guys.
Yeah, man.
And
Thanks for the invitation.
yeah, and you guys are welcome back on anytime you want to. Anytime that you guys have anything new that you want to put out to the community, we'd love to have you guys on here. Let us know. We'll get you in on what's coming up. And just to let everybody know, we already have our next guest for next week already booked, and it's going to be none other than Lone Star McFluffin,
Nice.
the creator of Last Epoch University. So if you're brand new to the game and you're looking for a way to be able to understand what's going on in the game, go over to YouTube right now and look up Last Epoch University. You can take and look up his guides on there. I believe Mr. Benishoel here too has also put out guides on his YouTube channel. Have you put out YouTube guides, Benishoel, for some of your builds?
Currently only the Earthquake Werebear.
Okay.
Very, very unethical Earthquake Werebear.
Uh,
But I like these kind of builds. I like OP builds. I like unethical builds. I'm always gonna put out always like the most the best build if you want to say if you want to say it like this. But at least that's what I try. Right? I try to put out the best, the most powerful builds, and they are most likely always going to be unethical according to the community.
Speaking of unethical, are you ever going to revisit the ballista build?
But yes, I am planning on making a build guide for it because it's still good for arena. Like you can probably get an easy 300 plus 400 with ballistas, but they're just not good enough for monos anymore. The nerf was the bug fix, which ended up being a nerf, was much too big.
So this patch actually hurt ballistas, and I believe I seen you playing ballistas the patch before. I think was when you did the run with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
like last patch, we would do about 10k crits, maybe even more than 10k crits with really good gear, like 10 to 15k. And this patch, it's if you do 3k, you're good. So
Wow.
it's really bad. It's really bad right now.
So it's a fifth of the damage that you were putting out before.
Yeah, and you need to use the Morning Frost boots. So you need to get a crap ton of res of cold and physical res, right? And you cannot use the ballista bow, the unique bow, because it's just not enough damage. So you got to use a rare bow. So yeah, getting your resistances up is really hard because on the unique bow it has physical and cold res, so it makes up for using Morning Frost, but not on a rare bow. And yeah, basically the build is pretty much dead for monos, but it's still good for arena.
Wow, that's crazy to think that was a full fifth of the damage it was putting out before it dropped.
Yeah.
Last question I got about that ballista build too is when you were pushing in the arena, I didn't get to see the end of your run. How high did you push that before the nerf?
About 500. I think I did 498 or something.
So that's very reasonable run for that because
Yeah,
I think
it
what is
was
it, about
not
300 is good.
Yeah, I'd say, well, 300 I think most builds can achieve. depending on the player skill, of course, and your gear. But I think with good gear, 300 is very achievable with pretty much any build with really good gear. And then like good builds, in my opinion, should push like 500 maybe. 500 should be the standing point for like the top builds, I guess.
Okay.
Like 1,000 is too high. 1,000 is too high. I think 500 should be fine.
You mean 1,001?
Yeah, I mean, anything that can reach over 1,000 is like it's too high. It's too high.
I seen the rip on the werebear that you had where you charged in and then all of a sudden, boom, you got smacked. And it was over. I was impressed that you got it up to 1,001 waves. I was like, holy cow, that is insane. So hats off to you.
1,001 is Tunk. I did 1,000 and
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think 1,046 or something.
Oh, you got higher. Tunk. That's right, because Tunk had the taunt build with Dreadshade taunt.
Yeah.
That's correct. Thank you for the
He basically
correction.
just exited though. He could have probably gotten higher for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that would have been
Yeah.
insane to see. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for both of you guys being on here. Really appreciate you guys coming and stopping by. Just so you guys know, this will be out on YouTube on Thursday night. You'll be able to catch the episode on there on the YouTube channels. If you look down below on mine, you will see not just my YouTube, but you'll also see Cynical Squid's YouTube. And whenever we post up the YouTube video, I will have Mr. Baker's Twitch information for you and Mr. Benishul's Twitch information, as well as Mr. Benishul's YouTube information for you. And Mr. Baker, do you have YouTube too, sir?
I do, yeah.
Okay, and I'll have
It's the
Baker's
same
YouTube
tag,
for you.
yep.
So you guys will be able to catch their information as well and be able to check out the content that these great gentlemen in the community put out. And like to thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.